Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to our week 5 videos, where in today classes we are going to focus on one specific things, which is called libraries and packages, right? So I will explain to you after this about what is library and packages. But this is very important things. In every programming language you are learning, right? Or you will learn, or you have learned, doesn't really matter. Library and packages is really helpful in achieving your objectives. I will explain after this why. Now, before we go further, right? Since all of you are very new, nearly all of you at least very new with programming, I always give this analogy about packages because it is kind of quite difficult to actually explain what is packages and library. So the way how can I explain these packages is something like this. So package is something that you install to your computer, to your R, right, to make sure your job is more seamless and more easier. And most of the time for data manipulation, data analysis, and then machine learning and everything, we have the packages ready already. So you don't have to create code from scratch, but you can just like simply plug and play, like simply use the codes, and then you can just like change a few things based on your data. So that is what library and packages is. Now I'll just like give you one analogy that I have always used in my class, right? The analogy is like this. In real world scenario, you can imagine like this. Let's say you are a chef. This is you, right? This is you. Maybe this is Mutahar, and this is Tejas. I'm just joking. Okay, never mind. But you are a chef, right? So in here you wanted to create a smoothie. Is it smoothie? Yeah, you wanted to create a smoothie, right? So what happened is, whenever you wanted to create a smoothie, you have two options. Option number one is you use knife and board. All right, you use knife and board. And option number two is you are using blender. All right, the goal is basically for you to create a smoothie over here, right? So you have two options. The first one is the traditional option here, and the second one is the blender option, which is the modern one. Someone already created blender, you just have to use it, and then voila, it's done, right? Meanwhile, if you are using knife and board, it is still possible to create a smoothie, right? But in the end, the process is like a lot. You have a very long list of things to do. You need to chop, you need to clean, you need to separate them, you need to, like, I don't know, there's a lot of process, right? I don't cook. There's a lot of process over here for you to actually do smoothie from using knife and board. And this one, knife and board, we can consider as traditional way of doing things without relying on packages. Meanwhile, blender, we can say this one is when you use packages. We just assume packages is like blender is the package, right? Someone actually create the blender, and then you just like put everything, all of the ingredients and everything. We can just assume this one is your data. You can just like put everything custom by you, and then you just have to click, voila, in the end you get the output. Similar with this one, you get the output as well, right? But the process is different. This one is like a lot of process, but this one is like easy process. So that is what analogy I love to give whenever I'm explaining about packages. So yeah, that is what packages is, which is a blender technically. Now, this is example of packages. Let's say you have one small table task, and you just wanted to do filtering, right? If I'm not mistaken. Oh, sorry, group by. So you just wanted to do somehow you just wanted to group by things, right? So you have two different code. This one, if you are using from scratch without relying on any libraries or packages, right? But this one, you use the packages, right? So what we can see here, you use these two functions, summarize and group by. This one, you create everything from scratch. So what you can see here, when you use packages, right, when you use packages, which is in this case you are using dplyr, you actually simplify the process because everything is shorter and easier to understand, all right, rather than this one. This one is going to be a very long process. If you create from scratch, it's going to be a long process, a long code, all right. So the code is actually longer because you need to repeat the same step for every region, but this one is just like, you know, this is the only code that you need to know. In the end, you will still get same results. So that is what library and packages is. So yeah, so that's why it is a lot more easier for us to always use packages. All right, so how can we use packages? All right, so just in case if you confuse what is library and packages, right, in some programming language they call it library, in here we call it packages, right? So I'm get used to library, so yeah, so somehow I just like miss said library and packages, so what I meant is packages. All right, so never mind. So and also at the same time, right, some programming language is actually library mean there's a lot of packages in packages, so yeah, that one is library as well. So never mind, just ignore what I said. All right, now we go to the next thing, which is how can we install and use the packages. Is basically the very first thing is we need to run this one, install that packages, and then this one is basically the package name. All right, so how can we do it? I'll just like use in my other account because this one is not supported by Monash. Google Colabs, I'll just like open Google Colab. All right, so we are in week 5. Give me 1 second. All right, so we'll just like continue here. All right, so how can we install the packages, right? So let's say the package's name is dplyr, right? Let me just like zoom in this one. So the package's name is dplyr like this, right? How can I install is basically I can just simply write install dot packages and then package name, right? So I mean, just to give you the context first, so in this case the package name is dplyr, then I'll just like write dplyr here and then run. All right, so we need to wait because this one is just like a new session, so we need to like restarting the server, and it's connecting now. I'll just like write install packages. Is it correct? Install the packages dplyr. Now what happened is it's actually installing dplyr. All right, let's just wait for a while. All right, so now we have dplyr already. Now before we can use anything inside the dplyr, one of it is filter, by the way. What we can do is let's just check what is dplyr, by the way. So we go dplyr. So in dplyr we have so many functions. All right, one of it is mutate, select, filter, summarize, arrange, group by, and many others. There is a cheat sheet over here, and you can actually refer to this cheat sheet. All right, so there are a lot of functions inside the dplyr. All right, so that is what dplyr is. Now before we can use dplyr, right, we need to load first. All right, so we just installed just now but we haven't load. So how can we load is basically we can just simply say library dplyr like this. Dplyr, sorry. All right, now we are already import dplyr into our workspaces. Now how can we use this one? This one is not going to be work because we don't have flights account here, but we will learn how can we use dplyr after this. All right, so because this code is not going to be working. All right, now let's go to the next thing, which is this one is similar with this one. All right, so let's go to the next thing, which is we are going to the next subtopic, which is knowing your data. Right, I think before we go to knowing your data, we should just like end the session here first, so that everything is like in different videos, different segments, so it's a lot more nicer. So I think see you in the next video, which we are going to learn about know your data. Thank you, bye bye.